So this is one of my favorite builds. I'm so excited about this one. And it's really weird why. It's not the fastest, it's not the most expensive by a long shot. But this is for a 9-year old girl for Christmas. She doesn't know she's getting it yet. Her mom tapped me on the shoulder one day and says, "Can you build her a gaming rig?" Well, absolutely. So you notice there's something glaringly missing. That's a graphics card. Well, we have crypto miners and logistics shortages to blame for that. It's too expensive right now. Luckily, Amiah plays Minecraft and Roblox. Both of those do just fine on onboard graphics as long as you get a decent processor with decent graphics. So that brings us to the heart, what we're starting with. Got a Core i5 11600K. Now, I could have gone to an 11700 or even a non-K variant, and it would have been okay. The reason I got the K is because this is going to last her a good long while. I'm not going to overclock this thing. I'm going to let the Intel overclock utility just run automatic. We're pairing that with 16 gig of Corsair Vengeance Pro, 3200 of course. And we're putting it in a ROG Strix B560A motherboard with Wi-Fi. Uh, obvious reasons why I go with Wi-Fi. Most homes don't have Ethernet cable run throughout. And why they're still sending driver CDs with motherboards, it's beyond me. I'm obviously throwing that away, but I thought I'd just throw it up there for fun. That makes no sense. Most computers don't even have drives. As you can see, the case we're using doesn't even have a place to mount it. But nevertheless, motherboard manufacturers, here's a CD with outdated drivers. Anyway, so the ROG line, the Republic of Gamers line, they like including all these little extras. Like there's a little, I don't know if it's a wristband keychain or what it is. And of course, you got a big sticker pack, which I think I'll leave those for Amiah to play with. I might put one or two here and there for her. The motherboard itself, it's a good motherboard. This is not the super high end. This is kind of the middle where we want to be, where I like to stay. Again, we're not going into serious overclocks. That's why we went with the B560. Got great heat sinks on the power management there. We've got heat sinks on the NVMe drive slots, and there's two of them, one here and one here. We're only using a single NVMe drive. Let's see here. We've got plenty of onboard connectors, USB-C. I don't know if this one has Thunderport if you get their optional little card, but we're not worried about that right now. 2.5 gig Ethernet, of course, dual channel RAM slots. We're going to populate two of those. And again, this always drives me crazy, and I think every other builder on the planet. If you're running two RAM sticks, you populate that slot and that slot. That's how you get dual channel. And you always start at the outside. Let's see here. What else have we got? We've got a Western Digital Black SN750E or 750 SE. This is a great little drive, very reliable. It doesn't have DRAM cache, but I find even without that, it's plenty fast. If you're an extreme gamer, you're playing a lot of high-end first-person shooter type games, yeah, you might want to spend a little bit more on an SSD. But for basic computer use and stuff, this is a great little drive. It's a 1 terabyte, and the price was right at the time. She's going to love that thing, and it is plenty fast. It's a Gen 4. It's 3600 meg. I know there are some other Gen 4 drives, including the 980 Pro Samsung, which double that, but they also double the cost of the drive. So we have to, be reasonable here. This is why I've selected these components. They all work well together. One thing I do splurge on always is the power supply. This is a 750 GT EVGA. As you can see, 750 watts is way more power than this system is going to be able to pull. I mean, I think even liquid nitrogen cooling the CPU to overclock, you're still not going to pull 750 watts. The reason I do this, the reason I overspec the power supply is because they cause so many problems if you skimp out on the power supply. You're better off if you're on such a tight budget that you're looking at ways to cut corners. You're better off going with maybe a slightly less power or CPU, or maybe not quite as fancy a motherboard. Sacrifice places and or sacrifice money in other places, but do not skimp on your power supply. Get a good one, not a gigabyte that's going to catch on fire, but get a good power supply and overspec it. Because this machine, she's 9 now. I expect this to last at least 5 or 6 years. It's a good machine. Obviously, it gets hit by lightning or something like that. It's another story. And Mom and I talked, and when graphics cards get back down to reasonable prices, hopefully by this time next year, she'll be able to just drop one in, and she doesn't have to worry about, do I need to upgrade anything else, because she's got a great power supply. Now, as far as cooling, we're going with the Nzxt Kraken K63. This is the RGB in white, which just launched. In fact, when I had originally spec'd out this machine for Mom, this wasn't available. It wasn't until a few days later, all of a sudden it popped up, and so I updated it. So we're obviously going for a black and white build. I think it's going to look really great. This is the 280 millimeter version, so it comes with 240 millimeter fans. These are NZXT's RGB fans, really great. So this is going to slot in the front here. I've got the glass on still, but I'll show you that later. And it should look really awesome, provide plenty of cooling. But as you can see here, I've got some thermal paste, even though we got a thermal pad on the cooler. Well, here's why I do this. There's the cooler. There's the CPU. Notice the problem? Big round dot, and it's probably sufficient, but that drives me crazy. So we're going to be scraping that off and applying proper thermal paste in a good method to the CPU. When you're applying thermal paste, this kit, this is the good Corsair stuff. This kit comes with a spreader. It's even got a template and everything. Look, forget all that. Too many people, including Apple, well, I don't think they do it anymore, but they used to. They just glob on the thermal paste. The whole purpose of the thermal paste is to fill in the microscopic holes and pits between the heat sink here and the heat sink here. And even though they're machined very smooth, there's still that microscopic stuff in there. So we apply thermal paste just to fill in those gaps so that we have good contact between these two pieces of metal. So in order to do that, we don't glob this stuff on there and use a spreader. In this case, we'll be applying one drop in the middle and a couple of very small drops around the outside, and only because we're doing a slide overclock on this with the Intel utility. Normally you would put one pea-sized amount in the center, and as you're torquing down your heatsink, it would then spread the paste out to the rest of the CPU just through sheer force. So yeah, the spreaders and all that, forget that. Apply it properly. There's a million YouTube videos on how to do this. There's also a lot of, oh, you're doing it wrong. Look, as long as you have good, even coverage and it's not too thick, you're fine. So a few little dots. This one tube right here is probably enough. Oh gosh, I'd say that's probably enough to do 15 or 20 builds easily. In fact, I'm going to be using it later to repaste the video card in my computer because, I don't know why Dell does that, but it's loud and it's not put together very well. So I'll be fixing that. Anyway, so that's what we've got going on. As far as components, you notice we got this fan here. This is an RGB fan. The two fans that come in the case are not. So we've got one back here and another one up on top. We're not going to change out that top one. We're going to put that Cooler Master fan back there to give it some more color because, hey man, RGB is cool. So this is the H510i from NZXT. It's a great little chassis. I have one myself. Really like it. It's very quiet, and it looks just fantastic. And of course, there's RGB strips in there, which you'll see when I get it all put together. Anyway, I'm so excited about this build. This is so cool. 9 years old, she's getting a gaming rig. I'd say Amiah has the coolest mom ever.